Modern cinema has shown again and again that it either doesn't want to conclude a franchise or fails to do so properly. Yes, I'm looking at you, Game of Thrones. Just completely obliterating an epic series in the last 6 episodes. I don't know if I'll ever get over that. So when I revisited Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows Part 2 recently, I couldn't help but admire it for first of all having the balls to actually have the story end, and then also doing it in a very satisfying way. So in this video, you'll understand how this movie succeeded where so many others have failed. I'll begin by asking the question, what is it that you really want from the final movie in a franchise? In my opinion, you want the important characters out of the past movies to return, ideally have some relevancy or at least appear again. You also want as many of these characters as possible to complete their character arc by showing us how far they've come over all these years. You also want the story to come to a satisfying conclusion. Satisfying, of course, being a very general term, but it could mean that the ending felt earned, rewarding, and emotional. You just want to feel something when the credits start rolling. I think you also want most of the questions to get answered, and I say most of the questions because I think it's good to leave some aspects up to our imagination. Maybe some surprises along the way, not just end in the way everybody would expect the story to end. And lastly, you want the final movie to bring something to the table itself and not just profit off of all the work the other movies have done. It sounds pretty easy and straightforward when you say it like that, right? But it's incredibly hard to implement, and that's why we see so many movies and franchises failing at this. Of course, you're probably never gonna end a franchise or a series of movies in a way that seems perfect to everybody. I mean, what is a satisfying ending? What are the important characters? What other people find surprising, other people maybe expected. So having said that, for me, Harry Potter and the Deathly Hallows gets all these aspects right and even excels in some of them. So let's break it down. In this last movie, we reunite or at least see so many of the past characters we've come to love. Some of them being Professor Lupin, Professor McGonagall, Dumbledore, Hagrid, the entire Weasley family, Neville Longbottom, Luna Lovegood, Draco Malfoy, Ron's first girlfriend, and many more students from Hogwarts. Seeing all of them again and of course having the final movie mainly take place at Hogwarts makes the journey of Harry, Ron, and Hermione feel complete and like it came full circle. And we not only see all these characters, but so many of them, and even characters where I would have never expected it, get a really satisfying conclusion to their character. My favorite one being Neville Longbottom.
Neville Longbottom.
My god, what a surprise he was when I first watched this movie in 2011. He's like Harry Potter 2.0, but in badass. He's not the chosen one, he was never praised as a talented, strong wizard. He started off his journey at Hogwarts kind of as the dumb, clumsy kid, and even in Harry Potter 5, he was the one who struggled the most to perform the Expelliarmus spell. And now, he's strong, brave, kind, and heroic. I would like to say that he's my favorite unexpected character conclusion, but there's a little someone that shall remain unnamed for now because he deserves his own segment. So as I said, Neville was great, but I also really like Draco Malfoy's ending, and to this day I think it's such a shame that they cut the scene where he tosses Harry his wand at the ending. Potter! That would have just made his character conclusion even better, but I mean they filmed it, so even though it's not in the movie, in my mind that scene just happened. I choose to make that scene happen in my mind. Professor McGonagall also gets a really satisfying conclusion by stepping up to become the headmaster of Hogwarts. Many of the other character arcs ended because they sacrificed themselves in the fight for freedom, which gives the final movie weight and emotion and can also be a satisfying conclusion to a character.
Your son.
Others will tell him what his mother and father died for. One day, he'll understand.
In my opinion, the story itself also comes to a satisfying conclusion and answers enough questions. Having Harry and Voldemort face off against each other in a one-on-one makes sense and feels satisfying because after so many duels that they have had in the past, Harry could finally win this one because they destroyed all the Horcruxes. The fact that Voldemort dies clearly marks the end of his reign and terror, which is what the entire franchise was building on. Also ending it by having the three of them stand there as the sun comes out, finally out of danger after so many years of terror, is also all I needed to enjoy that feeling of relief. Everything I mentioned so far was satisfying, at least for me, but I think also what many of us expected from the story. However, this movie also had some surprises up its sleeve, and the biggest surprise being the reveal of Professor Snape's backstory.
You have your mother's eyes.
This is arguably by far the most remarkable aspect about this final movie. I touched on Professor Snape several times in my other Harry Potter revisits because it's so mind-blowing how this was secretly being set up since the first movie. Then we got the reveal in the last movie, and in hindsight it all makes so much sense. Turning a character we all hated for 7 movies into the hidden hero in one single scene is simply amazing.
What will you give me in exchange, Severus? Anything.
But that wasn't the only amazing thing about this movie. My 3 favorite scenes were also amazing, and my first favorite scene in this movie was, I've always wanted to use that spell.
I've always wanted to use that spell.
It's generally an epic scene as they all gather to defend Hogwarts, but this subtle line brings so much life to the character of Professor McGonagall. I just love it. My second favorite scene is starting with a dragon.
That's unfortunate.
Since Harry Potter 7 Part 1 was a bit slower paced, I like that we hit the ground running with this one by diving into the action quite quickly. The dragon added some nice variety to all the magic and was also animated beautifully. I think I didn't even mention the CGI anymore in these last couple movies because it's just so good and holds up so well, or is even better than many movies nowadays. The fact that I'm not mentioning it anymore from today's perspective is really supposed to mean it's awesome. I really like the CGI in Harry Potter, and I think they're going to hold up really well even for many more years. My third favorite scene is Harry breaking the Elder Wand.
With that, we'd be invincible.
And the reason why I love this scene so much actually brings me to my adult's perspective, because in addition to all the great elements I've mentioned so far, this movie manages to integrate some deeper themes that also really take it to the next level emotionally. Harry breaks the Elder Wand and thereby breaks the cycle of chasing power by giving up the power himself. A very noble adult thing to do that perfectly concludes his journey from the small boy in the first movie to the young man we see now. A young man that also doesn't seek vengeance but fights for peace, as showcased by his action of risking his life to save Draco Malfoy from the flames, although he caused Harry so much pain over all these years. Another very noble action. As a kid or teenager, I think I couldn't really see this, but now looking back, I can definitely say that characters like Harry Potter definitely had a big impact on the development of my moral compass and my discovery of learning what's right and what's wrong. And what can I say? Harry is just a great role model, which I think we were all very lucky to grow up with. This movie also heavily dives into the themes of love and sacrifice in form of characters like Professor Snape, who I talked about earlier. He basically sacrificed his own happiness and his reputation for the rest of his life just to protect a child of a woman he loved. If that isn't true love, then I don't know what is. But this theme is also represented by characters like Professor Lupin, who gave his life in the battle against Voldemort. And of course Harry himself, who had to knowingly sacrifice himself in order to save everyone. 2 very powerful adult themes that I absolutely love this movie for. So that brings me to the end of my last Harry Potter revisit. It's really an amazing franchise that will always have a special place in my heart. And throughout my life, I'll probably revisit many more times. If you enjoyed this video series on Harry Potter, it would be amazing if you give this video a like, and hopefully I'll see you in the next one.